Hey, everybody. My name's Steve DeLong. I'm here with the Dad AF podcast, and I am sitting with Preston Elliot today. He has graciously given me a little bit of time to talk about his experience with his son, who is on the autism spectrum. We met about a year ago on his radio show, the Preston and Steve Show, for those of you that have not looked at the sky in Philadelphia in the last 25 years. And he's going to talk a little bit about his experience with his son and what it's been like. So thanks a lot for joining me today.
Of course, man. Happy to join you for sure. So to kind of give you a little background, my son Parker is on the autism spectrum. I know that the terminologies change fairly regularly when discussing autism, and things like high functioning and so on are phrases that are used. And I know that some of these phrases come in and out, and sometimes they're considered a little less I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Empathetic. But that's the term that I would use to describe his level on the spectrum is high functioning, sort of near the Asperger's level, awkward socially, things like that, kind of quirky. We first heard about indicators of this when he was in second grade, and we had a parent-teacher conference, and several of the people that had interactions with Parker were sat down with us and the principal of the school, and they started to relay that they had noticed some behavior things that seemed a little bit out of the ordinary. And so this came as a total out of the blue for me. I mean, I knew him as my son and didn't see him as any way different at that time in second grade. But there were some things about, like I remember one of the indicators they had noticed was that he would wear a hoodie, a zip up jacket with the hood on all the time, zipped up, even like in summertime in class.
Yeah.
And was kind of using that as a level of comfort, I assume. And they picked up on some cues along those lines and started to have discussions amongst the faculty as to what they were noticing. Figured it was best to let us know. And then shortly after that, we had an evaluation that was done and said, yes, indeed, he was on the autism spectrum, which was, it was a shock to us. It didn't, we didn't have the obvious indicators that some parents do with children who are further along on the spectrum, a little bit deeper into their level. So that was a surprise to us. But as I started to put the pieces together, it started to make sense because we had seen things that started to see things that were just awkward in his peer interactions and what other kids were gravitating towards and how he was processing things. And it started to make more sense after a while. And we got some things like tutoring to help him out. And he was kind of having some issues with paying attention in class and so on. But that's where the journey began. And obviously that evolved as he got older. But it was a new world to us. It was something that we weren't really that familiar with.
Yeah. And I think 20 years ago or so, it wasn't as talked about. It wasn't as part of kind of the world as it is now, whether, you're talking about it in a positive or negative way. Was Parker, is he your first child?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think some of my experience too with Bradley, who you've met, you only know your child. So you didn't have maybe two other kids to base development on. So this was just new to you. So yeah, like if you see him hanging out on the couch with a hoodie on over his head, you're like, oh, he just looks cozy.
Yeah, exactly.
But like in our case, Bradley was nonverbal for quite some time, and then one of his SLPs kind of put us on the path, and they said, he's got some of the traditional signs that we see for kids on the spectrum. Like he used to flap a lot, and he would walk backwards, walk on his toes, kind of shake his head, things like that. And they were like, these are just very. So did you see any of that when you guys were, like in toddler phase or baby or?
I started to see some things like the way he held his hands and would kind of position his posture and things like that just seemed a little bit off. And there were just little things, and it opened up my eyes to something that you had mentioned that 20 years ago it wasn't being as discussed as much. And you go even further back to when I was in uh, elementary school, middle school, high school.
Hmm.
Uh, there are people that I look back now and go, "Wow, that person was on the spectrum," and I had
Yeah.
no idea. And and it was a different time, and where people like that were picked on or kind of shunted out of social circles. And even I look at my own behavior back then and go, man, I was an ass. I mean, but I didn't know. That's
Yeah.
why I think things like this are so important, and it's why I try to, from time to time on the radio show, convey the message of, hey, if there's somebody that you encounter and there's something off about them, awkward, strange, they may not just they're not being weird to be weird. This is
Yeah.
is the way some people are, and their perceptions of how things are socially are different than you and I. And please have a little bit of patience and understanding if you can when you encounter people like that. And I do regularly. I mean, it was not that long ago. I was at a hotel. I was checking in. It was late at night. It was somebody working the late shift. And this guy, I could tell, was a little bit on the spectrum. And I made sure that I had extra time and was more delicate with how I was handling things, and making sure I was patient and encouraging as well. So that's why conversations like this are so important for people to see and understand,
Hmm.
and be willing to be open to, okay, and to be ready to maybe communicate a little bit differently. And so we're learning that. And then I don't know if you've watched The Pit at all, which is an amazing
I
TV
haven't seen
show.
it.
There's a couple neurodivergent characters on there, and it's starting to become a more open conversation, and people are becoming more familiar. I hope anyway is the case. But
Yeah.
yeah, we would pick up. We started to pick up on these things and notice them. And as Parker started to age, we started to see his friend group kind of fall off a little bit as they matured in a certain way, and he didn't quite. And that, as a parent, is very sad to see.
Hmm.
It can be heartbreaking. Um, but along the way, we've had some great people that we've talked to that have kind of given us some perspectives about how he feels, and that's the important thing is if we're afraid of our kids with things like loneliness and so on like that. But my son is a very
Yeah.
solitary creature, and he likes it that way. And
Yeah.
while I might perceive that as kind of sad, that you really don't have any friends, you have like maybe two people, that's it, that could be
Yeah.
considered friends. And I'm like, that would be heartbreaking to me. But to him, it's just, whatever, man. It's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I'm lucky in those regards.
Yeah. And I mean, if he feels good about it, like I have talked to my son and just, hey, daddy's got like 5 or 6 friends. You get to a certain point in life where it's, maybe there's 40, 50, 60, 80 people around you. But in the end, it kind of boils down to like, if you're in a great relationship and you've got a good family, maybe you've got 2 or 3 best friends, and that's really all you need. So it's
Yeah.
probably not all that. He's already done the work and just kind of eliminated
Got
the ones that are just he's taken care of it earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, going back to your point, like in school, I mean, I've had that. I had that friend in high school that was like 1600s on the SATs constantly, and then I look back at that guy and I'm like, there's no shot that he wasn't on the spectrum fully, And
Right.
they call that
Right.
now. They call it 2E because they're twice exceptional, so they have like a neurodivergency, and then they also have some sort of enrichment or enlightenment thing that they put them in those special classes where they can do calculus and trigonometry in the 4th grade because they're just that smart and brilliant. It's
That's
crazy.
true. And the word spectrum is very appropriate, because the range to which neurodivergency is it's all over. Like you said, you might have these completely socially awkward but brilliant in some aspects group over here. But then there's other people that are socially awkward, and they're not really smart either. I mean, it doesn't necessarily, just because people think of savants and things like that
Mhm.
movies have shown us that, well, if you lack communication like this, but maybe you're absolutely brilliant, but sometimes it doesn't go that way. Sometimes
No.
it can be combined with ADHD or ADHD. See, I can't even say that.
Hmm.
ADHD or other compounding conditions that can make life a challenge when it comes to aging and careers and taking care of yourself and things like that. And then there are to the level of nonverbal and need constant care. So
Hmm.
it is such a wide range to where people can fall into this. And I am nowhere near an expert. I only know my own son and his
Oh yeah.
case. And so I don't ever, claim to be someone who has a vast amount of knowledge when it comes to people on the spectrum, just my own experiences, but it is so wide ranging in the spectrum, and that's why it's a great word that you'll find these different personalities and types. And Parker falls in a an interesting uh, slot in that, like I said, he's a very he's very solitary. He likes being alone, but he is very verbal. But he can be socially awkward. And I'll give you some examples of, if you ask him about something about an anime character or something like, or just that subject comes up, be ready for 30 minutes of nonstop telling you about it, even
Yep.
though you've made
Yeah.
very obvious cues that, okay, I'm done with that now, or
Yeah.
I'm
Uh-huh.
not into that.
Yeah.
But he keeps going and going and going because it's what he's passionate about and feels that way. And that can be off-putting to some people. And that's why, friendships can be difficult for people on the spectrum. I mean, his friends, his closest couple of friends are on the spectrum as well, and they're in different
They find each other.
lanes of their own. Yeah, you're right. But they're in different lanes of
Yeah.
their own. And you look back and back in the day, there were groups of people, the kind of offbeat people that we didn't know may have
Mhm.
been on the spectrum that gravitated toward each other. And that's great that if they can find a community like that. But it puts parents in a unique position in that while my heart was just aching for my son and wanting all these certain things for him, because of my interpretation of happiness
Mhm.
and satisfaction, and that it was disappointing. Not me being disappointed in him, but I'm disappointed in that he's not getting to experience these things that I found so much joy in. And I'm not talking just about my specific things like passion for music or radio or anything along those lines, but whatever he found passion in a social circle. And so that always weighed on me pretty heavy. But when he was in high school, he was put into a social skills class, and the teacher, Mr. Montana, who was just wonderful, had some wise words with me along the way of making sure that I understood that, okay, that's how you see things, but that's not really
Mhm.
how he sees things. And
Yeah.
so let's try to keep that in mind. To him, these relationships, that I see as maybe not real relationships, he sees as real relationships. And so, I try to keep that perspective in. But it was sad seeing that people that he was close friends with in grade school, as they started to mature, were, getting into different things, and he was not going to be a part of that. Parker's never been interested in a relationship with anyone of the opposite sex. And we had discussions with him about that. I flat out, I'm like, hey, are you gay? Do you like men? Do you like women? Do you like this and that? And he's just like, I'm like, we're okay with whatever it is, but we're just
Yeah.
curious, because you haven't dated, you haven't done anything. It's like, I just I'm not interested in that, like, at all. And so that's something that I can't wrap my mind around because I was a total girl crazy guy when I was
Yeah.
in high school,
Yeah.
But and while I feel that way, and while that would break my heart if I wasn't trying to find a companion, it doesn't mean much to him. So,
No.
good for him. There you go. Again,
Exactly.
he doesn't have to deal with the
Yeah.
bullshit
No,
of going through
exactly. Yeah.
lousy relationships, which we all
Yeah.
have to do at some point in our
He's
lives.
totally
You know?
totally cut out the middleman already and was like, I love being this way. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Exactly.
I think it's something that I kind of had to you're at a different stage, and that's why I thought this conversation with you would be so interesting, at least to me, and hopefully some of the people that listen to this, because I'm dealing with the 6-year-old version of autism spectrum and fatherhood, and you're dealing now with the adult version of it, and that's the part, like you said, it scares me a little bit to know that one day I'm going to leave this place and my son's going to be by himself, or he's going to maybe hopefully have somebody that he's with, or close family, but like we have a small family, so it's my nephew who's 16, my son, and then there's a couple of other cousins sprinkled around, so
Right.
there's not a ton of us. And I kind of had to put it in perspective to myself, like you said, um, is to not put those things that I feel like he should or shouldn't be doing in his life aside for my own sake, and just understand that he's going to go about what he's going to do and he's going to be happy, whether or not I
Yeah.
think it's the way that he should do it. Right.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and with school and, like my son, you were talking about how Parker doesn't necessarily thrive in that social situation, but like my kid's the opposite. He's just a little social butterfly and he likes to float around and be the mayor of the entire school. But he also doesn't pick on some social skill, or he doesn't pick up on some social cues. Like when he was little, he would just go up to every kid he saw and say, "You want to be my best friend? You want to be my best friend?
Right.
You want to be my best
Right.
friend?" And it's like, Bradley, not everybody needs to be either your best friend or play with you. And it's okay
Mhm.
for them to say, "I don't want to have a coloring party with you." Um,
Right.
so, like, how much did you guys kind of have to push in school? Um, because I know something that, gets talked about a lot in the autism world is kind of not presuming that they're not capable of things. Like, did you find that when you got the diagnosis, then you had a bunch of people kind of swarming in and being like, well, this is what he can't do, this is what he won't do. And you kind of had to fight to make sure that they presume that he's competent at things before they assumed things
Mm,
about your son?
I don't recall that. I don't recall. It was more of let's just observe and see what his capabilities are. Because they, like I said, they weren't severe to any level. They were more just on a social level. So we weren't really swarmed with people. I mean, we did get an IEP, an independent education plan,
Yeah.
which I think is what IEP stands for. It's been a while since kids have been out of school.
Yeah.
But so there were considerations there that helped out, and it was then that I gained my appreciation for teachers, because we would have regular meetings with the teachers just as updates and how we doing, and what are things looking like. And that's where I was like, because when I hated teachers, because I hated school, I was a lousy student, I was terrible, and so my
Yeah.
my my
Yep.
understanding of what teachers were trying to do were different. They were just taskmasters in my mind.
Yeah.
But I saw this group of really caring people reaching out, paying close attention, communicating, letting us know what was happening regularly. And it was an eye opener for me. So we got regular updates and watched the progress, and we didn't see anything go off the rails. He stayed, uh, fairly within limits of not needing too much special attention other than the social skills class in high school. His
Mhm.
grades were okay. He was an okay student. If it was something he was interested in, he would, do well, which is pretty
Yeah.
standard.
Same here.
Um,
Mine was, band and playing golf. And if you gave me
yeah,
any other subject, forget it. So,
yeah.
yeah.
You and me,
Yeah.
we're in the same ballpark, dude.
Yeah.
But no, it was watching his progress was things were slow as everyone was aging. Like I said, the friend group kind of dropping off, and his interest level in things were just nominal at most as far as school went. He did get involved in band, but his heart wasn't really into it.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember not seeing too many indicators of real problems or anything like that. We did have him attend community college. He didn't really have any interest in further education, but we're like, all right, let's go try it out. So he went to community college, and a year in, he was just like, this is not my thing. It's not my interest. So we encouraged him to get to work. And before that, in high school, he did work at a giant grocery store in
Yeah.
Harleysville, and he worked the cash register. He did the carts and things like that. So we made sure that he had a sense of responsibility. But then after trying college out for a little bit, we knew that that wasn't going to be right for him. So he needed to get out into the workforce. So now he's a delivery driver for a third party Amazon company called
Yeah.
Lightspeed. And he's been with them for like 6 years or something like that now, 5, 6 years.
Oh, that's great.
And is doing well. And, as a, like you had said, Stephen, I mean, our concerns are, our thoughts are down the road, late in life.
Hmm.
Him being on his own, what does that look like? How can we help? We've been saving since the kids were born for whatever they may need down the road. We've set aside some savings accounts and some investments and things like that to make sure that the kids have something financially to hold on to, especially him, because I don't think he's going to have a um, uh, you know a, I don't want to say he's not going to have a successful career, but I doubt he's going to be overly successful. And in this day and age, when we're seeing things like the economy and everything can make a left turn
Hmm.
at any time, it's really,
Yeah.
really scary to think about somebody who's on the spectrum and maybe not have the skills to carry on their own. So we're trying to, kind of put that into his DNA right now, and just making sure that he's got a plan, and like at the moment, like he has no really um inspiration or desire to move out or anything like that, and we're fine with that. He can hang around as long as he wants to, as far as we're concerned. We're not get
Yeah.
out of here. So you got a job and you're contributing, that's
Yeah.
cool with us.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And I mean,
it's still I'm still there's a part of me that's always going to be a little scared of what the future
yeah.
holds.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean, it's great to hear you say that, because it's, I mean, it's the reality of the situation. You're not, uh, hiding it. You're not kind of denying that this is the way it might be for them, and that's the part I think that, like, a lot of parents that have the younger kids kind of need to hear is like, hey, it's going to be okay to a degree, but you also have to prepare to make sure that they have what they need when you're not
Yeah.
around anymore, right? And
Yeah. Exactly.
it's you can pretend it doesn't exist, and it's not going to do anybody any good, um,
Right.
because it's just going to set them up for failure.
Yeah. Exactly. One of
Yeah.
the interesting things that I kind of wrestle with a little bit is and you talk about dads and obviously, when you're in a marriage, you're two different people. You can have the same ideas and believe in a lot of things, but sometimes maybe have a couple of different methods up to which you gravitate towards when it comes to teaching your kids and inspiring them and things like that, or what your ideas about are for anything when it comes to parenting, because we when we go to social events, I can pretty much count on Parker pretty much just taking his headphones and putting them on and going somewhere and sitting and being by himself. And Rochelle, my wife, wants to encourage him to be social and to engage and so on. But
Hmm.
there's a fine line there when it's like you're trying to push something on someone who is not comfortable in that position. I mean, they do need to be social in order to survive in the world and in order
Hmm.
to coexist and to maybe ask for help or need assistance or help
Yeah.
other people as well. Um,
Exactly. Yep.
but I it's so hard, Stephen, to try to figure out what the right approach of that is. You can't say now make
Hmm.
sure you're going to talk to people tonight. You're going to take those headphones off. Make sure you're this and that
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
they don't feel comfortable doing that. And
Yeah.
I'm not saying my wife does that. I'm just saying that's an over exaggeration of the scenario. But
Hmm.
I don't know the answer to that as to what's doing the right thing in setting them up for a future where they will be self sufficient and able to operate on their own. And we're not at a level where we need constant instruction or things like that. So I haven't had any professional help in that regard. Is that anything that is on your mind as well?
I don't think so because I feel like, if Bradley kind of keeps going in the direction that he's going, it sounds like he's going to be uh, kind of along the same lines that Parker is, where we won't be able to tell until he gets older, like what really
Yeah.
he's going to end up being like as an adult. But, it sounds like their trajectory was a little bit different in school just because Bradley's more of like the sensory seeking social kid that has a problem with kind of like sitting still and understanding social cues of people about what's disturbing or what might be called annoying or what is
Right.
disruptive. Whereas Parker was in school and was just like, here's my corner. And if you guys leave me alone, I'm going to be happy.
He
So,
when he was younger, he was a little more aggressive is not the right word, but he was a little more gregarious and outgoing, and it kind of
yeah,
changed over time. He used to have real anger issues. He would get real upset about things if they didn't go his way, and that eventually faded away. And that just might be aging, learning, and getting
yeah.
better at coping with things. Um, but
Well, that's the hard part when they're
yeah,
kids is deciding what is all right, they're a 6-year old to a 12-year old, and then what is,
yes,
caused by something that just might be going on because of autism. So
yeah.
it definitely is hard to decipher those things. And that's where we get hung up, my wife and I, is what is the ADHD and autism and what is just being a smart ass little 6-year-old, you know? So it's like,
Right.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough. But I mean, I think, what you're saying about the later in life is why I wanted to get involved in what we were doing because those are the things that there's so many programs for children that are of high school age and then maybe even college because I've done a podcast with a college age student too who has very similar supports in college that they did in high school, which is great to hear. But then, yeah, once you kind of like unleash them to the world, what is out there to help them figure out how to get from your house to the stadium for an Eagles game if they want to take the bus, and
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
people, it's okay. They pick this up and they figure it out. But, maybe Parker can't do that because he either can't put it together or then the idea of getting on the bus is the part that maybe scares the hell out of him, you know?
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean,
have you
that's
guys,
not that's not our situation, but I know a scenario that you're talking about. Yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, he's become surprisingly more self-sufficient than I thought he would be, and more confident than I thought he would be. Which is great. And there's little awesome things like that you find out along the way. If you've got doom and gloom on your mind, from
Mhm.
time to time, something comes up and you're like, oh, well, I didn't think I was going to go that way. That's awesome. This is a good
Yeah,
thing. So
exactly.
I love little surprises like that when they
Yeah.
happen.
I had a guy that was on here tell me a story about how his son asked a girl to prom and he's like, he almost stopped the car and crashed it because he's like, I never thought
Oh,
that I would hear that from my son at all. So
that's
he just
awesome.
like lost his mind. That it was awesome. Um, I know, right? It's just I'm thinking of all these things and like he's in kindergarten and he just, he still wants to just come up and snuggle. And then I got to deal with, maybe one day him figuring out that he can't ask 9 girls at the same time to prom and take a yes from everybody. And
Yeah.
so, um, I mean, so it's awesome to hear that he's doing great. And just like, where are you at as far as like, just, I don't know. It's hard to think about Bradley being a 25-year-old. Like, when you
Mhm.
started this journey with him, I'm sure you were just like, all right, let's kind of figure out what autism is, what it means for him for the rest of his life, kind of you coping with those feelings too of, changing the idea in your head of who your son maybe is.
Mhm.
Has he changed your mind a lot? Did you have some expectations of who you thought he was going to be and now it's just night and day different in a positive way? Or is there things that you're really
Uh,
worried about?
so no, I never really have put that much expectation on or premonition on where he might be or end up. It's just been more of
Mhm.
a let's just guide as we go along and see where this goes. So I haven't been I um I was surprised when he started working and being diligent about work. He's a hard worker. Like
Hmm.
and one of the things that really surprised me, he is around the house. He is incredibly lazy. Like he just wants to sleep all freaking day. But dude gets up, goes to work, and every day we can have like you know how brutal the winter was, and he's a delivery guy.
Yeah.
And he would
Uh-huh.
come home on these days where the high temperature was like 18 degrees. And I'm like, dude, how was it today? He's like, not bad. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, okay, that's awesome. I would have come in and said, it sucked today. Oh my
Yeah.
God, it
Right.
froze my ass off. I'm dead ass tired and blah, 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 blah. But that's him every day. He's like, it's fine. I'm like,
He's probably
I'm
he's out there
jealous
with
of
his
that,
yeah. He's out there
you
with his
know?
hoodie on, all bundled up, and
Yeah,
he's happy.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he listens to audiobooks. He's by himself when he works. Like I said, he's kind of a solitary guy, so delivery is perfect for him. So I am happy that he has found a comfort zone, and he knows that work is important, and he's loyal. And listen, he'll take a day off anytime he can get a day off. He loves days off. But if he needs to go to work, he goes to work. He does the job. There was a time where when he was younger, trying to get him to do things, help out with something, was like pulling teeth. Even though he is extremely lazy, if you ask him to do something, he will do it, and he'll make sure it gets done. And
That's
so
awesome.
that, and he's meticulous about certain things, which can be a good thing. Whenever our pantry needs reorganization, we're like, Parker, go. Like it's like a puzzle. He puts it together, throws
I
out all
mean,
the
I
outdated stuff, puts it all in order. His room is not like that. It's a shithole. But
well, no, why
but
would it
when
be? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
Out of chaos comes organization.
yeah. But I haven't really not, and I'm sorry, Steven, I don't have a better answer for you, but
No.
I've just kind of like been, let's watch and see what happens and guide, and we are here no matter what, to help.
Hmm.
I have my financial advisor, his son is nonverbal. He's in a facility where he has constant care,
Hmm.
and because he's an adult now, and I don't know how I would perform as a parent in a scenario like that. My respect level for people who have that on their plate is absolutely through the stratosphere, and I meet
Hmm.
some parents from time to time who are that way, and I just don't know. I mean, it would be my child, and I would love them no matter what. But
Yeah.
it would be very difficult for me to be in that position because I would be uh, it would still break my heart some, I think, because I have a hard time wrapping my mind around, like I said at the beginning of the conversation, what their world is like. I only know what my world is like. I try to be empathetic
Hmm.
to everyone, but it would be a very difficult scenario for me personally. And so those people who handle it as gracefully as some people do, I have tremendous respect for.
Same here. Same. But I think that, you know, point that you're kind of touching on, and the part that I'm very interested in too, is you're pushing away, your expectations of, again, who he should be and what your feelings of what you want him to be, and just allowing him to be who he is, and then you're supporting him in what he wants to do. So you're like, hey, listen, get over there and organize the pantry and clean your room. And then he's like, well, I'll do the pantry but no room. But then you can't be mad at him because he's like, I'm going to go to work too now. So but
Yeah,
your
yeah,
your financial advisor, I'm sure he goes through a little bit of that too. And in the end, the part of this that I'd like to kind of talk about more too is just the emotional support that needs to come from a dad with their son, especially in this space, because a lot of dads
yeah,
will just kind of shut it down. And, they're like, if we can't talk about home runs and hard hits in football, I don't want to talk about anything. It's really easy to not be emotionally supportive to your kid when you know that they need something a little bit more special from you as a dad as
yes.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, finding a connection and where I can help, when I can help with what he needs is important to me. I mean, on a a friendship level, he and I, he's a gamer, so I'm like, let's get a game going, you and me, so we'll have a couple of games, video games that we have going on, or board games, and kind of
Oh yeah.
that's our time. Yeah, is to so
Yeah.
yeah, he's way into these. He did Magic the Gathering and these games that
Mhm.
are actually way over my head. I can't. I
Uh-huh.
suck at them. They're terrible, or I'm terrible at them.
It's just
But I
like
make
it's
sure
so
that
intricate.
oh my
It's
god,
crazy.
yeah.
It's just yeah.
Um, and here's the deal with Parker. I actually so I spoke earlier about maybe not being brilliant. You say we were saying that some people on the spectrum can also have a high level of intelligence in some specific area. His is
Mhm.
games. Like every time we play games, Parker wins the game. He's the
Oh
rule
yeah.
guy. He knows
Uh,
he knows every bit of it, and so that's his
does he
special
make up
talent.
his own rules?
No, 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 no. He is
No.
by the
Okay.
book. Oh
Okay.
yeah, he whips out the book. He's like,
My
no,
kid
it
is
says
not.
right here, and this rule cancels out that rule. If you check out the wording in this, it means that. And I'm like, oh my god. But that's part of how we engage emotionally and socially is through board games, video games, and things like that. So I try to make sure that we always have that because the heart to heart conversations don't really happen.
Mhm.
When I have them with him, I can tell that he's a little uncomfortable going there, and so I will, and they'll be kind of short, and I'll try to impart a bit of dad wisdom if I can about
Mhm.
whatever it may be, and just let him know. But we're as a family unit, the five of us were very, very close, and we're very affectionate in our language, and so there's a lot of love in this house, which is fantastic. So
Yeah.
anytime I'm coming in the door, out the door, from any of my kids, we get a hey, love you, dad, how you doing, and all that.
Mhm.
So that's important, and to see that coming from him, from somebody who can be socially awkward, is it's wonderful. It's excellent,
Yeah.
and so we connect on those levels. But you got to find the right one that is an appropriate connection for whatever your kid is on the spectrum, whatever they're into, whatever is passionate with them. You can connect on that level. It's great. It's the best, and I don't try to push any of my passions onto him. I mean, certainly you share and say, "Hey, you into this?" And
Yeah.
if they're not really, then I don't try to push anything on them. So we connect on things like I said, games and the Beatles. He's way into the Beatles, which is
That's awesome.
s-
Yeah.
the
Right.
best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but finding that something to have that connection with is very, very important.
Yeah. It is. It so is, and it's like right now Bradley's he's in that good kid phase where he's just like all about video games, and I like to play. I dabble in like the Zelda stuff and all of those kind of episodic games on the Switch, and I love them, and he's slowly getting into them. So I'm like, all right, this is cool that we can get into this and do this together, and maybe he's not going to like want to go play 10 rounds of golf a week when he's in his early teens, but if we can still bond over this type of thing, it's great. And I mean, you have the guitars and all the music stuff in the background. I'm sure you would just love nothing more than the kid to pick up drums and start a band with dad. But if the
Yeah.
time that you can get with him is playing magic and video games, then you've got to push away what you want, and make the
Yes.
best of the time that he's willing to give you.
Yes, and
So
and there are some things that I've tried that he's into. Same thing coming from him, where he's like, "Wow, I'm really into this," and some things are a little bit outside of my realm where I would just really be faking it if I tried to
yeah,
to get into it.
yeah,
So I've learned to
yeah.
let some of those go, and I think that's
Uh-huh.
okay. You don't have to, you know, to connect on absolutely everything. It would be great
No,
if you did, but naturally, I would be completely checked out on some of the things. Like there, I've told you, like some anime stuff. He'll start talking to me and telling me about this character and their abilities, and then their background, and then how this other character is this way and that way, and blah blah blah. And at some point, I'm just seeing his mouth move, and I'm going,
yeah,
and I'm like,
yeah.
this is not
Uh-huh.
telling you that I am not
Uh-huh.
interested anymore at all, is it?
Yeah.
So
No,
there have
nope.
been a
He
couple
didn't
times
pick
where
it
I've
up
had
and
to
he's
say,
just
I've had to say, buddy, I love that you're telling me this, but I can't follow what you're saying, and I'm not as interested as you are. So thank
Yeah.
you, but no thank
Yeah,
you.
exactly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
great though, because I feel like that's the relationship that you kind of aspire to have with your kid. And it's awesome that you guys can have that honesty with each other. And it's not
Yeah.
like you feel like you've got to tiptoe around him because you don't want to stifle his desire to open up to you. You guys have found a really good way to communicate. So he understands, hey, this isn't my thing. And then he can tell you, hey, dad, I just, I don't like
Yeah.
Stone Temple Pilots that much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And
Whatever
you
it is.
find these things out as you go along.
Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome. And it's you've got to want to do it. You know, you can't just have your own idea again of what they should be doing, and you've got to be open and receptive to the fact that just what you want to do isn't always going to be what they're into, and you've got to play
Right.
along with them. Yeah.
Yeah, we try.
So,
I'm not into sports really at all. I mean, I like something. I love to play golf. Obviously, I talk about it a lot on the radio. But I'm not a die in the woods. Need to watch the game every week or every time there's one on.
mhm,
So, but we did try out sports. With him, we encouraged him to go and try things out. Let's see what sticks. Let's see if you like this, and he'd try something out, and then it would fizzle out, and that was okay. That was totally fine. But we wanted
yeah.
to make sure that he at least tried a lot of different things. I think any parent will do that as well, or
Mhm,
should do that. I think let them throw it all at the wall, see what sticks, and if it does, then maybe encourage that a little bit. So I've never been disappointed in that. Man, I really wish he was into this thing, or his friends are doing this and he should be doing that. It's been more of the it's too bad he's missing out on that kind of feeling that I had, that
mhm,
camaraderie that you might have on a team or a friendship
yeah.
group because you're into this type of deal. But like I said, I've gotten past that. It was just I was projecting my own life onto him, and I learned what the indicators were on that, and I'm like, okay, back off. It's his life. He needs to go with what is important to him.
Yeah. 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 At a certain age, yes, you just have to be like, this is what they want to do. Um,
Yep.
so switching gears a little bit. So as an adult now, have you guys talked about like what it means for him to maybe explain to people who he is and how he is to kind of keep himself safe in the world? You know, I mean, he's out, he's driving. Um,
Mhm.
you know, who knows, anything can happen. He gets stopped, or, you know, he gets into an accident. And, you know, have you, you know, spoken to him and been like, hey, you might need to kind of explain yourself and who you are a little bit? Have you guys had that kind of like talk with him?
No, but it's a great idea, to be honest, Stephen. And that's something I think that he should have in his back pocket. I mean, we have seen incidents where, on occasion, there's been a person, a figure of authority or something like that was not aware that this person was on the spectrum, and that some behavior might seem suspicious in whatever that scenario might be. And there's been some bad
Mhm,
things that have happened because of that. So it's actually a great idea, and I'm glad you brought that up because that's something that I hadn't really considered. But I think that's probably something that any parent with a neurodivergent kid might want to instill in them, just in case they may need
mhm,
to share that information. I mean, I have a question for you. I mean, your son's only 6 years old, but when you are encountering people for the first time, maybe parents of other kids that they might be socializing with, do you ever let them know that, "Hey, by the way, my son's on the spectrum."
mhm. Yeah, we do.
Okay.
We're pretty open about it too. I think for us, it's a couple of reasons. I mean, the primary reason is that if there's just some kind of different behavior than what they expect out of a normal 6-year-old, we would like for there to be an explanation, at least in their mind, of maybe why it's happening. But it's also just to kind of raise awareness and just be like, hey,
Yes.
um, you know, he is autistic, but it doesn't mean that, you know, every person that you encounter that's autistic looks autistic, behaves autistically, or has some sort of physical cue, you know, because again, like you said, you meet one kid on the spectrum, and that's one person on the spectrum you've met. And my son is different than your son, then is different from your financial analyst's son or everybody else's kid or daughter that has it. Um,
Mhm.
and it might not be obvious. So we're very open with other parents about who he is and how he behaves sometimes, just to give a little
Good.
insight. Yeah.
Yeah, I will, when it's appropriate, I'll let someone know, "Hey, by the way, if you notice some odd behavior, that it's, he's on the spectrum." And so just, it's nothing that's obvious. If you were to sit and talk with him for a while, it might take you a few minutes, but you might walk
Mhm.
away going, "That guy's kinda odd,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and so people may not be aware that that oddity is a condition, and that, that you can be sensitive to that. You can have a little, like I said at the beginning, a little more patience, and a little bit of understanding of why, their behavior might be a little bit offbeat,
Hmm.
I found out something just recently, and it was sad to hear, and it was, my wife ran into someone who went to high school with Parker, and they were talking, and Rochelle was asking them about school, and she had confided, she had said, "People were so mean to him." And this is something I never knew. This is like just a week
Hmm.
ago I found this out.
Yeah.
He never told us. We would ask the regular questions about how things are at school, how's it going, and we never really heard anything about any bullying. But apparently, this girl had noticed that people were outwardly, rude, mean, whatever it may be. I don't know exactly what they were
Hmm.
doing, but she had said that, and that he would respond with just sarcastic comments, to these people. But you know, I I wish I would have known that. Um, uh, and this is only a few years ago, so the awareness of autism was already out there.
Hmm.
And but even with the awareness, I still don't think that people are putting two and two together sometimes, and understand and trying to understand why that person, may act a certain way, dress a certain way, talk a certain way, whatever it may be, and that we need to be a little bit more open um, to not just seeing face value.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so that kind of broke my heart a little bit, and that's why I think these conversations are so important, and that people hear more and more about it, and just are aware, and are maybe a little bit more, like I said, I keep using the word patient. Tolerance, not the right word, but patient
No.
and understanding.
Yeah. I mean, because
So yeah,
tolerating just insinuates that you're putting up with it.
yeah,
Patience
exactly,
means that,
exactly.
yeah, patience is, I mean, I work in restaurants and I've always been a guy that's in charge. And for me, patience wasn't something that I possessed very much of for quite some time. Um, but I've learned a lot of patience over the years with Bradley, and it's really changed me for the better as a human being, getting to know him, because
Hmm.
it's made me, need to just take a different level and take a step back all the time and really just
Yeah,
try and assess the situation instead of, like you said, maybe reacting to the situation, figuring out, why the situation is occurring and what we can do about making it easier. So,
yeah, yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, it's and as a parent, I can only speak from my own perspective, but from time to time, you find out things that are a little upsetting, and it's just part of. But listen, there are loads of things that people can get upset about, in the world of being a father, a mother, a parent, and there are much worse things that could have been, happening in my kids' lives, and I'm thankful for
mhm.
that. That Rochelle and I talk about, uh, you know, Parker could have been a crazy party guy, that was getting in trouble all the time.
Yeah.
And that would have been, I don't want that, but
No. Well,
it
who
is.
would your wife have been reining in then? You and him, or just him? If he was a
Yeah,
crazy party guy.
yeah,
Yeah.
probably. I would have been along for the ride.
Uh-huh.
Oh my God, there's two of them in the house now.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. That's
no, but
funny.
it's a challenge, and I see people that have more of a challenge than I do, and I realize that you know our situation is very very manageable, and I'm very very thankful for that. But it is unique when it comes to the numbers. That you have a child that's neurodivergent, and there's just some growing pains along the way that we all have to
Yeah.
figure that the child has to figure out, that we have to figure out, and we're doing it together.
Yeah. Um, I don't want to close with like the typical, best advice, but it's kind of why we're here too, is to kind of talk a little bit about what people that have been through it a little bit more can impart on some of us guys that are just kind of starting this journey with our kid. So instead of like, what's your best advice? What is the thing that you have learned about being a father because of Parker that you maybe didn't expect to
Hmm.
get from him? I know it's kind of a
Um. Yeah. Well, I mean, if there's any advice, I would say, and this is, I don't know if I'm using the right words or not, but kind of follow their lead and see where they're going naturally, and be a
Mhm,
guide rather than try to condition. And look for support along the way. That's important too. Like I said, our teachers were wonderful in helping us navigate the challenges that come with autism spectrum. Man, I wish I had a better answer for you, Stephen, but
no, it's okay.
um just be open, be patient. I've repeated that word a bunch of times, but and look for people who are kind and are willing to help,
Mhm.
and seek them out, and hang on to them.
Yeah, I think those are actually pretty good words. So
Cool.
cool. Um, yeah, I mean, listen, thank you very much for taking the time. I know
Of
you're
course.
you're busy and you probably like to be in bed
Nah.
close to
And,
around. No?
soon, in about a
Yeah.
half hour or so. But
Yeah, half hour or
I,
so.
I want to thank I want to thank you for doing this, because, to be honest, I've never really spoken about it. I mean, I will
Yeah.
just touch on things on the radio show, and that's why I seem a little discombobulated while talking about this, because it's nothing that I
No?
really sit down and talk to people about, other than my wife and I. We're the ones that
Mhm.
have the discussions. And yeah, because I don't know, I'm still trying to figure it out. And so
Yeah.
I don't know how to have the discussion all that well with people that aren't in my sphere. So I
Mhm.
appreciate it. This is
Yeah.
good to speak like this, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe we can do this again at some point, but um thank you again for your time, and if you're available in a couple of weeks, we're doing another one of those fun events for the Eagles Autism Foundation out at Daisy. I know you were there after I was on your show last year, but we're doing it on May 7th again. So I'd love to have you
Where's it
if
going to
you're if
be?
you're around. It's at
Is it going
Daisy.
to be at Daisy? Okay, love that
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
Awesome,
So if
excellent.
you're
All right,
around, stop out and say hi. But thank you very
yeah.
much, and I
Let me
appreciate
just
you
yeah,
you
let me
being
know
on
let me
today.
know when it's coming up for sure.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I'll email you.
I'll give a mention on the air for you too. So that'd be great.
Thank you.